welcome to another edition of Humble Theology. My name is John, and I'm starting a new series talking about Christian debate. Still don't know exactly what to call it yet. I'll have to see what I end up with for the thumbnail, but something about Christian debate or the Calvinist, non-Calvinist, systematic theology overview, or that's kind of too long, stuff like that. But anyway, there's as I read, study, look into things, try to provide answers even on social media and like here on YouTube to people concerning doctrines and things of Calvinism and non-Calvinism type points of view, it's really hard to do over the noise that goes on in social media. And that's because a lot of the modern problems is that we're backbiting, before the world, and that's not something we're supposed to be doing. But let's look at that real quick. Galatians 5 verses 14 and 15. For the whole law is fulfilled in one statement: love your neighbor as yourself. But if you bite and devour one another, watch out, or you will be consumed by one another. So why are we doing this? Why are we working to consume one another? I understand to a degree the what's called the cage stage of Calvinist and non-Calvinist points of view. You kind of really are very zealous for what you're learning and going through. But that being the case, you still need to take responsibility to love one another. That may be something that's deeply on fire in the center of your heart as to what it is you've learned and how you want to defend things, but it doesn't mean we just go out and start attacking one another. That doesn't help anything. Another piece of scripture, 1 Corinthians 6:6, about going to court. Brother takes brother to court, to law against one another, and that it says before unbelievers. It's like we're not even handling this in-house anymore. We're doing this in front of the watching world. We're having all these arguments and basically meme battles back and forth over things that the rest of the watching world is like, wow, what's going on there? So it doesn't give an element of love for one another, does it? So what's the problem? What's the point? Well, in most of what passes for online discussions is the problem of talking past one another. Whether you're Calvinistic, non-Calvinistic, Reformed, non-Reformed, whatever terminology you want to use, Arminian, what's the newer one? The Providential. Providentism. But we're talking past one another. I like to use the illustration of a car battery. We can all talk about what a car battery is, but if you're going to criticize my Honda, whatever, for its battery, when you drive a Tesla and your battery is like basically the whole floorboard, we're talking about two totally different things. Although they're both batteries, but your battery for a Tesla is not going to fit in a Honda, and a Honda's little battery is not going to fit in a Tesla. They're proportionally different in their design and their capabilities, what they're supposed to do, what they do and don't do. So when I look at you and say, well, that's the wrong battery. Well, not for your car. This is the wrong battery for my car. It doesn't fit in my systematic, not in yours. And you can pick anything out that you want. The probably the most problematic one, whosoever will, or all in world, all means all, and all that kind of stuff. Or free will, this group, free will, and we don't have, you don't have it, and you can't use that verse because you don't believe that. And we're just talking past one another. We're making all these accusations that basically from both sides are unfounded. Like free will. Well, everybody has an opinion and a terminology and definitions and systematically harmonizing what free will is in their system. So you have to work to uncover those things. It's not enough to just blast somebody with a meme and say, well, I'm just going to shoot them down. And boy, I knocked them off their feet because, they can't possibly have an opinion on John 3:16. Well, I almost guarantee you they do, because they have the Bible just like you do. So how do we fix it? How do we stop all this backbiting? Well, first off, what I recommend, again, who am I to you? Don't know, just a guy on YouTube. But again, I think these are valid, at least, principles to try to take under your belt. All of us, I would hope, to some extent. And leave comments if you have other ideas on things we could do. But the first thing I would recommend is know your complete system of doctrine. It's not enough if you're going to go to debate other people and try to say, well, I don't agree with your perspective on John 3:16 or whatever it's going to be, free will or something like that. You can't just know, I have this term and I have these proof text verses for it. That's it. It's like, no, how does that fit within your system? Harmonize it with everything else, with all the other doctrines, with all the other passages of Scripture. How does that fit? Because I guarantee you, when someone calls you into question for what you're trying to claim, they're going to take you somewhere else. Well, how is that compatible with this? And how is that compatible with this? So how do you defend against that? Well, whatever side you're on, know your complete system first. Don't have what I affectionately call bucket theology. For this doctrine, I have a bucket, and these are the verses that fill it. And for this doctrine over here, I have a bucket, and these are my proof text verses that fill it. It's like, no, how do those fit together? How does all that interlinked? How is that harmonized with the rest of Scripture? Because you can't just have a doctrine that stands by itself. There's all of Scripture, and the person and work of Christ and grace and all these things. How does that interplay and work with one another? So know your system of doctrine first. That may take a lot of reading. Go read a systematic theology from your perspective and see how all those things fit. What sense does it make to have that particular doctrine and its bucket of verses? How do all those tie out to all the other things? So systematics, know your systematic. So then next, if you're going to go into debate and discussion with other people, know something about their systematic. Again, like the car battery, it's not enough to just look at someone else and say, hey, your look or your view, your perspective, your interpretation of a certain verse or free will or whatever the doctrine is, the Trinity or something like that, the person and work of Christ, the church in Israel, your perspective on that is different from mine, therefore I disagree with it. You're not using it correctly. Well, you don't know how they're using it in their system. If within their system it finds a type of ebb and flow and harmony with the rest of Scripture, maybe theirs is either just as valid as yours, maybe it's more valid than yours. But again, that's research. That's something you have to dig into. Again, it's talking past one another to just say, hey, I drive a Tesla and my battery is this set floorboard model and it does this and it drives and powers all these things. You say that your battery is this tiny little box that just sits in the front and all it does is help start the engine and run a couple of things. That's not a true battery. Well, in that type of car it is. So it's valid in the system that it belongs to if you understand the system. So if you want to engage in debate and discussion, theological stuff, you have to know your system, know something of your opponent's system, and then you got to work through it with questions, love, and clarity. Hey, so tell me about this battery you have. Why is it so small? Or why is it so big? Why is it necessary for it to do X, Y, and Z? How does that harmonize with the rest of your system? And if you have a very original point of view that either knocks down, well, look, your system is out of harmony. This doesn't align with this in your system, or this better aligns with this in my system. I think it adds more clarity. Well, then publish something so everybody can get behind it, evaluate it, and in theological circles, it can get kind of cemented in, as it were. Because again, if you're just going on social media to pick a fight, you may knock off some church member who's been a Christian for a couple months, maybe even just a couple of years or so. Is that a win? You shook up someone's faith. You made them feel terrible about something. Is that really a win? Did you really accomplish something there? Did you really win them over to your side and everybody else that watched? Probably not. And just because you won against some church member or somebody who couldn't answer you, or they blocked you and ran off, again, maybe they went and read more about it, and maybe that drove them to an elder or deacon in their church, and they learned how to better answer it. So again, iron does sharpen iron, but we don't have to do it in such a way that we're backbiting one another. So this would be my final point. As you read social media, a lot of that stuff is driven by the interest of influencers to drive up their numbers. So you're going to be baited into certain discussions and debates because they're just going to throw out the most controversial stuff there is, looking for a fight. And they're not even, in most cases, influencers looking to win the fight. They just want their channel to be the place where these things happen. So one, watch out for bait. Don't bait other people first. Ask questions. Show a real love, concern, and question. Have your own integrity about, hey, help me clarify this. In your position, I see that you have this and this. Can you explain that to me better? I don't see how that harmonizes with Scripture or with this and this. Can you help me with that? In my system, I harmonize it this way. Does that seem better to you or not? We can discuss these differences. We don't have to be baited. And when you see the bait dangling out there, don't give into it. Don't take the bait. You see those types of discussions online, let them be. Go find something more edifying, a discussion that's actually going on. Chime in there. But again, we don't have to be so argumentative about these things and so against one another. So that's it for this particular episode, this lesson. That's just how it's conducted. In my future ones for this series, I want to break down as briefly as I can the Calvinistic system and then a non-Calvinistic system and how those interwork. I call of Calvinism kind of a closed system. It's kind of set in what it has. It's had its basically set for centuries now. But then the non-Calvinist positions, well, there's many of them. They do fit into a system, but it's not a closed system. You in a sense, have options, I guess is the way to put it. So we'll look at those systems, how they are held together, in what way, shape, and form do they harmonize with one another, and we'll look at some other details like that. Because I want to look at both systems on their own, and then I want to come at both systems with the typical accusations. Well, you guys don't believe this, and you guys don't believe that, and you guys don't understand this, and so forth. So we want to take the most common rebuttals against Calvinism and non-Calvinism systems and see do they really hold up, or what answers do they have? Because I guarantee you both have answers. But again, I'll leave it up to you guys. Does that harmonize within their system and with Scripture or not? But we'll take a look and walk through those together in the next lessons or so. So thanks for watching. I hope this hits home with some of you and you can share it with others, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. But be careful online. Don't get baited into this stuff. And if you do disagree with someone's systematic, with someone's theology, their interpretation of the Bible, Let's not just try to slam one another through the floor. Let's work through it and edify one another. We can question, and in a curious and comprehensive way try to work together to help one another understand each other. But that's it. God bless. Take care, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.